Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. It's time we do a quick viewer Q&A episode. First question, how's Senior coming on his shed? Maybe you can give us a quick view. Well, we're in luck. Here he comes right now on the Ford 8N. He's got the brush hog on there. He's getting ready to knock this old field down, but he said he'd take time out of his day to give us an update on the building. Well, he's been quite busy up here lately. He's brushed out a lot of the overgrowth on this side of the building because we've always had very poor drainage with this uphill slope, and all these trees are well past their prime and they're all coming out of here, right? Right. In fact, this big birch behind you, it's already lost a couple of pieces and we don't want anything falling on the building. But he's in the home stretch now. You can see we've got some steel going on the sidewalls. So all of your soffit and fascia custom fitting is done. You've got a lot of the trim strips and everything in place, but you've been doing it pretty much solo because I've been up there on the field. So you've got a few tricks to get by without an extra set of hands up here, right?
Okay, well now when I went to order steel, they only do it in 1-inch increments. I needed like 89.5, but I decided by 89 because you go on the other side over here. Okay, if I went to 90, I'd have been below down in here.
Okay.
You'll probably get a better view over here. Okay, what you can see here, what I needed, 89 would have put me here, 90 would have put me down there. And with this piece right here, I need this to butt against something.
Yep.
Also, I wanted something to protect the bottom side of the OSB board.
Yep.
So I custom made some pieces here.
And that was some of the scrap from my building that was left over, right?
I can show them how I did that. That gave me a seal there, and it gave me a seal for here.
Yep.
And I established everything from the soffit.
Okay, from where you had made all the finish pieces up there.
So
yep.
I worked from the top down. Now what I did to establish this piece right here for height, I measured down 3 feet from there.
Yep.
Made a mark.
Okay.
Then from here I went down here.
Put there
with bump stops.
Okay, so so here's the stop on the back of the gauge stick.
There.
Yep, got one here too.
So then what I do, I just put these in there, bump stop it down, and I stay consistent all the way around.
Oh, okay, so you started from the top and basically did the finish on the bottom then. Yep. And you can kind of cope with the irregularities of the building that way, and everything should come out pretty flush.
Even if you look at the relief underneath here, I got the same visual relief all the way down.
Yep.
And also all the way around the building. So then to set my trim pieces up here, I did 89 3/8. Gives me 3/8 of an inch.
Okay.
Clearance
right
for expansion stuff.
Okay. Yep.
And I just bottom out in a top J channel.
Yep.
And then I just butt the bottoms up to here.
Okay.
Then I just move them about every 4 feet down. And just went over there.
So once you establish your gauge sticks, you don't have to go back and remeasure all the time. Yeah.
And when you're working by yourself, you need 4 hands.
Yep.
And that's my extra hands, basically. So just some of the tricks I use when I work.
Work smarter, not harder.
So anyway, let's.
You've got all the trim out around the door openings on the front side here. It looks like
all the J channel.
Yep.
Establish my heights here. You can see where I put some stops, put my gauge sticks in.
Kind of some temporary pieces up there.
I just run a snap line, chalk line across there, put them in there. I can put my gauge sticks up against the sticks and get my bottom set up. So.
Okay, yep, makes sense. So
it's coming around.
And here's the stack of the rest of the siding steel here.
Yep.
So we're getting the skin put on it finally.
Got all my overheads in.
And those are a lot nicer doors than what this had prior.
Just some seals I had in stock. Probably not the color I should have used, but I think it's a good accent. It kind of matches the light gray close enough.
Yep. That should be a pretty good looking building.
Basically seals everything up, keeps the critters out.
That's the big thing. It's good for storage.
So anyway, that's what I've been up to.
So we can work right back around to where we started. So yeah, we got with all the trim in place and everything here. All the trim in place around the door here, the window. So that's what we're gonna have. light gray exterior. It's got the, I believe that's like a forest green roof. We have white soffit and fascia, white bottom trim, white window and door trim. So.
And I am putting felt behind.
Yeah. Then that's what you said, you could have gone Tyvek and done the whole building in a wrap, but then with the felt, you don't really get ahead of where you are with the steel.
Yeah, I could quit any time. I don't have to worry about stuff blowing off.
Yep, you can just kind of work and progress as you go. So
it's kind of sometimes the steel sweats, that'll keep that moisture off the OSB board.
But it's still a lot better than what this building was, and it's cold storage at the end of the day anyhow. It's plenty weather tight, so it should be pretty much good from here on out. So yeah, we need to get the rest of these trees out of here. And then I think we'll even we've been joking about having a tumblebug work day where we could get in here and just start taking this down. This is a perfect little tumblebug ridge right here. Not too big, not too small.
Right over here on the other side.
And just keep going in circles around and around. But that's probably going to be next summer by the way things look, because leaves are changing already. And there he goes. He's gonna flatten the whole field. No slowing him down. So follow me up to the main field. We'll continue on with the episode. All right, I'll start off with a brief update of the dirt work that has been happening at the new building site. And both feeds have been very quiet lately because I ran out of ways to make moving dirt be entertaining, to tell you the truth. So I decided let's take a step away from the feed and we're just gonna hammer through. I've been up here just going as hard as I can go every day for about 4 to 5 days. So you'll notice the original and first topsoil pile that's been here for the last 5 years is gone. Got all of it used up, nicely landscaped and sloped the old footprint of it into the surrounding features. So when that grass is over, you won't even know it was there. Every bit of our gravel has been used. We have a good 30-foot perimeter around 3 sides of the building. Ties in with the old road nicely. On the back side of the building, the final 2 topsoil piles from over here have been spread. We're walking on it right now. Any place that was bare sand got a layer of topsoil. Any place that had grass, I left alone. So it's not the super black rich Squatch Senior Miracle topsoil mix, but it should grow some grass. This was actually topsoil that I had stripped as well, albeit more barren. Weeds do well in it. It'll turn green eventually. And of the most recent grass seeding, we've got some sprouts starting up. It'll look just like that soon. And that brings us to the next viewer question. Squatch, do you think you'll move machinery into the new building before the snow arrives? First part of that answer is yes. The second part of that answer is I hope so. Yeah, that's why I've been going so hard on the landscaping outside. We have that part of it, the drainage, the landscaping, the seeding, the topsoil. That is complete, at least well enough for the upcoming winter. So that means we start putting this lumber to work, building the overhead storage loft mezzanine along that side. And that goes back to how I mentioned both feeds have been rather quiet lately. It's because I've been trying my best to make hay while the sun shines. Those who live in this part of the world know full well that we only have a few short months to do this type of outdoor related work before winter moves back in and completely locks us out of the ground. So you can either choose to be prepared, which I choose to be prepared, or you can let winter catch you flat-footed. When this building got the green light and I wrote that first check to get everything rolling ahead, I knew at that time that this was going to completely take over the rest of my summer, and sure enough, it has. So it's been a rather difficult decision to move out of the shop. I've got a lot of interesting new developments and news on the Farm All H front. I have not spent any time working on it at all. I really want to get that wrapped up yet this year. This still takes priority because the Farm All H is one machine. I've got about a dozen others that are relying on this space to be able to spend the next winter and from here on out of the elements. So you do what you have to do when you have to do it. The next set of questions, and I'll use this one as an example, but I've got this same one from a lot of people. Do I plan on running power back here? Do I plan on using solar panels? Do I plan on putting in lights, etc.? And right now the answer is no. It's about a 750-foot run from the road out there across the field over this hill to get back to here. And my power company has quoted me around $20,000 to get power this far. Plus, I would then have to commit to a certain level of power usage for them to do the hookup. And I won't be consuming that much power out here until I end up moving out here and living here. So as of right now, no, this building is just to give the machines that I am not looking at a roof to be under while I am not looking at them, as opposed to right now, the way they have to sit outside or under covers while I'm not looking at them. So cold storage, not a shop, no actual work will be going on. But I mentioned moving out here. That rolls me into the next part of the answer. So the reason why my access road makes such a sharp corner right here to go down to the new building is because I didn't lay this road out for this to be a corner. I laid this road out for this to be a T. Eventually, this road will continue on to the top of that hill. Now that we're standing on top of said hill, it becomes evident that when I routed this road, I gave myself the option to continue it on straight to where I'm standing right now. The bulk of the hill is still over here, so you would get access to this side of it. That leaves the whole rest of this top area for the structure that will have the insulation, it'll have the heat, it'll have the power, it'll have the well, it'll have the everything. This is where it'll be the shop, the workspace, the living area, the house, this is the main spot right here. Excellent view looking out across the rest of the property. You get the tree line, the swamp, the pond, everything down there. Looks really nice in the fall. Everything that will be happening for real will be happening on top of this hill. That's been the plan the whole time. So all the questions I've answered about, I can't believe you're not doing heat, why aren't you going to insulate that other building? That other building is a tin-walled shack with a roof. It's a covered parking area. That's the only purpose that was ever supposed to have. So the trouble is, all this stuff lives in my imagination between my ears. It's hard to convey what I see to other people. So brings us to probably the final but the most important question of the day. The final question. Curious, was your tract acquired from a friend, neighbor, or kinfolk with the close proximity to seniors' property? I purchased this land back in 2007. I have a 50-acre parcel here, but the original purchase was just on a 40-acre parcel. So here's the story on how I turned it into a 50. It gets a little bit complicated. I'll try to tell it as simply as possible. So the gentleman that I bought the first 40-acre piece from, which is what includes the building site and everything off to the clear end of the field over the hill that way, he was a farmer slash neighbor that had a property back behind Senior's place, and he originally owned this as an 80-acre piece, but he had split that in half about 20 years prior. So he sold this tract over here as a 40 to another gentleman, and that made the property line then run right through the field about where we're standing, cutting my backfield just about in half. Well, he had kept haying and farming this ground here, so the field remained open, and instead of having an imaginary line to have to try to reconcile, I wanted to incorporate the rest of the open field into my 40-acre parcel. So I worked a deal that same year with the gentleman that had this other 40. I bought a 10-acre strip that extends all down this one side, which gave me the rest of the field back. It gave me all the backfield, so we don't have any imaginary lines through an open hayfield anymore. That's how I ended up with 50 acres. Like I said, been that way since 2007. But I was also lucky enough to have obtained the original abstract title to this piece of land in those deals. And that tells a rather interesting historical tale. If y'all want the deep dive, we'll get into it. The first private owner of this land was certified on September 10th, 1877, when the U.S. government signed the deed over to Lake Superior and Mississippi Railroad Company, which is no surprise because they were still really trying to bolster national infrastructure during that time period. railroads were how you got it done. By 1889, ownership had then changed to the St. Paul and Duluth Railroad, and filed July 17, 1894, a timber contract and timber permit with the Fox Wisdom Lumber Company. Said land shall be released from this agreement as soon as the pine log timber has been removed. And there's a reason why this is named Pine County. This used to be all solid, just virgin stands of jack pine in here. Not the mix of hardwoods and softwoods that we have now. But somehow, this old boy here survived all that cutting that was happening in the 1890s. He's got to be at least that old. It's a great big old tree. I mean, look at this tree root right here. It's got bark on it. It's the size of a log. He's got branches that are the size of trees that are harvested now. And it's a big old boy. He's about 4 feet in diameter. I think he's one of the last holdovers that was never felled back then. And I've named him Odin. That also fits right in with the Great Hinckley Fire that occurred in September of 1894. And they were just clear-cutting pine back then for lumber. And any pieces of the tree that were not like usable, sawable logs, we're talking tops, branches, what have you, were just left to lay on the ground. There have been 2 years of extreme drought, and somehow on that late summer day, it was all ignited, and well, it burned, completely burned everything up to about 20 miles south of here. It didn't get this far, but yeah, look up the Great Hinckley Fire if you want to have an interesting history lesson. It's well known around this area here. And an interesting side note of history, release of said timber permit dated November 20th, 1895. It only took them a few years. All that pine was gone. Then, by October 7th, 1902, enters Gustav Swanson. Bought the 40-acre piece here for $280. Then, March 1st, 1923, Oscar Dahlgren comes into the picture. And it was Swanson and Dahlgren that we see the most remnants of today. Like I said, this was the old farm dump. You still see some tin cans coming out of the ground. Like I said in the previous episode, lots of old glass bottles out here, but this is their most lasting mark right here. All the rock piles. And I've said before, this is one of just 3 rock piles this size that are on this property. And you don't have to walk very far into the woods to see what those men were up against when they were taming this land. Red Shed is just right over there. You can tell where they stopped clearing, because pretty soon you see boulder just barely sticking out of the ground. On top of the ground, boulder. More boulders. More boulders. And those old boys have my undying respect. When I look at unbroken land like that and compare it with the land that they cleared and made farmable, I can't imagine how much blood, sweat, and tears went into all that. That's why all their equipment ended up racked and broken, like this old running gear. We've got a lot of shattered big rock piles, and I feel a little bit lazy because I have diesel fuel and hydraulics. They, on the other hand, they still had dynamite, so there is that. But by 1949, old Oscar was getting on in years. The Pine County Welfare Board, by Executive Secretary, filed an Old Age Assistance Lien Certificate. And by 1958, Oscar had passed. All that was left was Edna Dahlgren, widow. And not much else to report after that. Warren J. Golden then took ownership until November 3rd of 1978. The rest is blocked out for privacy reasons because we're getting into people that are still with us. So that's when the farmer neighbor that lives back behind Senior purchased all of this land, and he kept haying and mowing the fields, kept them open, but by that time the old Dahlgren homestead had been knocked down and buried. So aside from the rock piles in the fields, really nothing else exists out here from the Dahlgren age. And that brings us up until 2007 when I purchased this land from the farmer neighbor. And back then, once you turned off the tar, there was no nice driveway going all the way across the field. So in 2011, I started the first leg of the access road. So I dredged up some old pictures. I'll start overlaying some of those over the video so that you can get an idea of a before and an after. I staked out where I wanted the road to be, cleared the topsoil, and then we rolled out the geotextile mat, followed by 12 inches of gravel. Next, I needed to slope up on each side of that thick 12-inch layer of gravel. So I took the Farmall H and the tumblebug scraper, and I removed a little rise that used to be right here on the inside corner of the road. Used all that for the sloping fill. You can see in this picture here how far I actually had to cut down along this first corner of the road in order to get my side slope, and then everything to the high side of that was used as material and carried further on up the line. And here next to the road is where I found the remnants of that old Dahlgren farmstead. The house and the barn used to be here. This area is where I started finding a lot of bits of metal, door hinges, lots of nails, broken glass. They knocked all those old buildings into the foundations and just covered them with a shallow layer of topsoil. But I had the D2 in here, 5U7066, the Iron Mistress, and I was dozing up a lot of that spoil, the contaminated dirt. I didn't want to get it in my rubber tires. And that's also back in my forum days when I was making a lot of black and white, drama shots, if you will. I think a lot of them turned out pretty well. The next step then was to take the Farmall H again and use the old Adams pull grader to do the fine finishing work on the road edge side slopes that I deposited with the tumblebug grader. The following year then, 2012, is when I started planting these rows of pine trees to add a privacy barrier between me and the road. And I put all these in when they were just saplings, about 6 inches tall. And it turns out the summer of 2012 was extremely dry. One of the worst possible times to put in nearly 300 little sapling trees. So, it just means more work. I took the Farmall H, and behind that house across the street, used to be my grandparents' place, is a pond down by the swamp down below. I drafted water out of that pond with a gasoline-powered water pump, and I rigged up a 330-gallon steel water tank onto one of the old cut-down truck frame bunk log trailers that Senior used to use with my grandpa in the woods. And 300-ish gallons at a time, I hauled about 10,000 gallons of water over to these trees just to keep them watered, trying to keep them alive. But I'd say all the work was worth it. For the most part, I had about a 20% attrition rate. So you can see now why I put them 3 rows deep. It really provides a nice barrier between me and traffic on the main road. But as they'd turn brown up in here, I just pull from the far end because those rows L around. I didn't need so many down there, and I just fill the gaps up here where I really needed them along the road. And now all that work was well worth it. Really nice privacy screen between me and the road. Not too bad to get through to get back onto the main property. At the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with the result. And I'll leave you with a couple more before and after shots that surprisingly were taken from the exact same spot. So this is another one from my black and white era, the Farmall H with the sickle mower, and I'm mowing the weed and thistle infested bowl, trying to keep it open, the spot that always collected water and bred mosquitoes and was really not very usable for anything. And then we have that exact same spot now. After all the reshaping, the lay of the land is quite different. A lot of the trees are gone. Hard to believe it's the same spot. And one more with the H and sickle mower. First pass in, mowing down the weeds. And now. Hard to believe it's the same spot. So I hope you all enjoyed the history lesson. That is the complete origin story of the Squatch Ranch as it stands today. And thank you for the excellent questions. And those old photos bring us up to the next major turn of events, which occurred in 2019. And of course, that is where YouTube picks up with the start of the Field Land Clearing Project playlist. Always go back, check out the playlists. Not enough people utilize those. They are such valuable tools. You get the whole story organized in sequence, start to finish, in one spot. Highly suggest you go check that out and relive the whole saga up to this point right here. This represents 9 years of my life, this building. 5 years actively working on the ground out here to make it a buildable site. 9 years of saving up to be able to afford to have it. But not enough people in this world anymore know the sense of satisfaction that comes with starting from relative nothing and creating something. And I wish that for everyone because it's an awesome, awesome feeling. So I'll just leave you all with that. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you back next time.